of her ball and socket joint, which is her shoulders. So they're creating what's called a super stiffness down through the core to become even more athletic on the distal side. So that's the function of the core for athletic performance. Violating that will lead to poor performance and injury.
Sure. Okay. Excellent. So,
can I just go and say what now? People think, well, if it's not transverse abdominis, what is it? Do you want me to answer that?
Oh, yes, please.
Yeah. So it's funny when people talk about their core, they think about their deep obliques and whatnot. Again, it's a bit misperceived, because all of what I mentioned there about stiffening this bending beam, one of the best core muscles is one called quadratus lumborum, which runs from the rib cage down to the pelvis and attaches the entire lumbar spine through the transverse processes. Latissimus dorsi is a fantastic core muscle. It helps you lift. It stiffens. It creates more athleticism distally through the shoulder. The whole erector spinae complex, the gluteal muscles have to be considered part of the core, because they are the ones that are part and parcel of expressing this magnificent power development out of the core through into the distal femur. And as you know, you'll hear commentary on television time and time again. The great ones use their hips. The poor ones use their spines or their shoulders or their knees. And a good pair of hips backed up by a stiff core beat everything else. You can look at, virtually every MMA technique is all about pitting the winner's hips against the loser's any other body part you like.
Sure. And that kind of, to me that makes a lot of sense, because you hear it about boxers, you hear it about golfers, you hear it about tennis players. All the power comes through the hip, transfers through the core, down the arm, into the racket or into the golf club, out onto the ball, sort of thing. But sort of with that as well, so we're sort of we're getting this stiffened core, and there's a lot of people that I've heard out there who talk about training outside of what would be this neutral sort of core with the hips and shoulders locked together, because they say so much movement is outside of that, so they say we need to train outside of that. But what would your sort of thoughts be, without having, let's say, trained with the stiffened core, so we haven't got that foundation, if we were to train outside of there just generally, what would be happening to our spine, our back, our performance?
Well, again, it depends on many factors, but my first question would be, well, what does the person do for the other 23 hours a day when they're not training? If they are sitting at a desk, they've got all the flexion they need.
Sure.
You don't need any more. Watch them tie their shoes. Are they proficient? If they're moving well without any load and deflection, let it be. I don't have a problem with that. But don't tell me that you're going to take the spine through the range of motion under load to create that athleticism. And again, these are people who, if they've got 30 folks around the world in the Olympics in London this summer, great. I'll listen to them.
Sure.
So I gave you that jiu-jitsu example as well. Go talk to the top. I know a lot of them, and they've come back and they said thank you. We've salvaged another career.
Sure.
By avoiding loaded spine through the flexion range, and that person then reduced their pain, and they were able to train once again to world-class level. But if you think you're going to train through that kind of pain, taking your spine out of neutral with heavy load, I think, I can't imagine that you're having success.
Sure. And I think, again, if you want to add to this as well, I see a lot of people walking around, the exercise, the wood chop, they'll go from this high position to a low position, but they'll use their spine. Is that the sort of thing that you're getting at? If someone is doing that exercise, so the twisting exercise, and they're using their spine or their obliques or their core muscles or whatever they want to call them to initiate that pull or that twist,